got it wrong again. Martin, 10,000 runs for Joe Root was about 2 test matches ago. Should have been the Jack Leach thumbnail. Don't worry. Welcome, everybody that's watching tonight to another Talking Cricket show. Ian is otherwise engaged tonight watching ABC. Martin didn't actually know who ABC were, but Neil said it's easy as 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom. Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button. Please subscribe. We've got a subscriber giveaway, so we're looking to hit 4,000. So if you're new here, please do hit the subscribe. This will be out as an audio, I think, tomorrow. Martin will have it up at some point tomorrow. We've also got a Talking Cricket feed on Twitter at One Talking Cricket. So please do go and follow us on there. I think we've got over 200 followers now, and we are live across Twitter as well. So there you go. But yeah, tonight it's obviously we're going to review the England-New Zealand series, but we're going to start tonight with obviously the retirement of Owen Morgan. Rob's going to be a little bit late. He's on his way home. His daughter's been playing cricket. Maybe keep him on the back burner, Gov, because he did say 3-0. He's got a bit of a big head, so we'll bring him in when he's here. Tonight I've got Vice-Captain Brandon, and all the way from an Ibis in Portishead, Neil. He's on the Wi-Fi. It's working so far. He's put 50p in the meter there, Brandon, at the minute. So, so far, so good. How are we going, gentlemen? Are we all good?
Not too bad.
Not very
too bad.
Could you disappear at any moment then, Neil, do you think?
No, do you know what? This is probably one of the best hotel Wi-Fi's I've ever had.
You did actually say that. You did actually say that some of them are not good, but this seems absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
But anyway, where do you want to start? Oh, look, he's here. Let him in. There he is. Smug. I think it's smug, we can say. I think your tongue was very firmly in your cheek when you said 3-0 to England. Am I correct?
Yeah, a little bit, but you've got to be positive, haven't you? You know, you win one game in 18 and, you know, change around the corner. But no, I've got a lot of time for, I don't know if you've already mentioned Morgan, but I've got a lot of time for coaches who just do the soft stuff well rather than get too technical. They just get some good vibes going on. And like Morgan is very much of the same ilk, isn't he, as Stokes and McCullum. So
this is where we're going to start. You've just come in time. So obviously today, Owen Morgan's announced his retirement. Personally, I think it's the right time for him to go. I think he knows, guys, that he's not in the form that he was. He's obviously had a few injuries, sort of suffering a little bit with that. He didn't do too well in the Netherlands, but he's not going to outstay his welcome. He knows there's a wealth of talent available. So he's gone. Look, he's played 225 ODIs, 115 T20s. He's scored over 10,000 runs. Obviously took us to number one in the T20 and the 50 overs. And obviously, look, 2019, I think anybody, us four, the people in the chat, anyone watching this back will never, ever forget that, you know, because we've come close before in World Cups, Rob, and not quite got over the line. And obviously we got over the line there, didn't we? But like you were saying, I think he came in, didn't he? It was a little bit of a poison chalice when he was given that sort of, it was a bit of a hospital pass, really. He came in on the eve of the World Cup down under, and it obviously didn't go to plan, but he didn't really have a lot of time then. But since then, Rob, it's just been one way, haven't we? We've just gone up and up and up.
Yeah, obviously he was given the job, I think, a month or so before the World Cup, if that, and was obviously would have been told you've got the job for 4 years and, you know, crack on now. But it's all about moving on from here after Alistair Cook was doing it and just, you know, patting it back, getting 200 off 50 overs. And we, they backed him, and it's so funny, isn't it? How it's all about. We talk all about Morgan today and the way England have played Test cricket for the last month or so. It's so similar, isn't it? The way that they've gone about their business, and England just backed him. They sort of threw all their eggs in one basket, which was the one-day game. So sort of left the test game a little bit alone, didn't they? Invested plenty into it, gave them everything they needed, all the coaches and support they needed, and whatever Morgan, you know, somebody's recognised that Morgan was good at what he does, and they got around him and backed him whatever way it wanted. There was a couple of games where he fell apart, wasn't there? Like in the World Cup, where things went a bit awry. But they just backed themselves, and that positive mental attitude showed them through. And like you've touched on with the World Cup final, I was lucky enough to be there, so he gave me the best day of my life. So don't tell the kids.
It's quite ironic when you think that he's obviously big pals with McCullum, Brandon, and like what we've done in these 3 tests. I was actually there at Edgbaston in that first one day when we scored, I think it was just over 400. We played the Kiwis, first game after the World Cup. What legacy do you think that he leaves behind?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think him as a player, even before he took over as captain, I thought him and Kevin Preetson sort of paved the way for the sort of shots that we see nowadays. The first person I really remember sort of reverse sweeping constantly was Owen Morgan. Him and Ken Peterson's, I think, inventiveness sort of paved the way for people like Jos Buttler. And growing up as a kid, all of my passwords at schools were all Owen Morgan related, actually. So he was one person that, obviously, I'm a little bit younger than you guys, and the only memories I really have of one-day cricket is with Owen Morgan.
All right, hang on. We're not that old.
Well, maybe I'm just that young. But all the memories I have of any white ball cricket with England have Owen Morgan firmly in the centre. And I think that his leadership has been unbelievably amazing. I think, as you said, it's the same mentality as McCullum. Everyone gets to the international stage because they have the technique there. They have the basics. They can play all the shots. They're just there to tell them to play whichever shots you feel comfortable, whatever the situation. And his leadership is, I think now he's looking at the situation. He sees the World Cup coming up, and I think he's like, the selectors aren't going to make me move on before this World Cup. But looking at the form of Phil Salt over in the Dam, looking at Buttler, looking at all the players who weren't even in Amsterdam, the Roots, the Bairstows, even Alex Hales, Stokes, all of them to go back into that team. I think he's looked at it and he's thought, I'm the weakness in this team. And for this team to win the World Cup, I'm going to step aside and let someone else take my spot. Because I think we've all been scratching our heads, haven't we, for the last couple months, especially since Livingston sort of broken through, thinking, who the hell do you leave out? Yeah. Who the hell do you leave out? And I think that's sort of Owen Morgan saying, look, my form, my injuries, I'm starting a down slope, so I'll step aside. And I think that's one of the best things he's done as a leader, is knowing when to step aside.
Yeah, because I remember Neil early on. I can't remember who we played, and we were bowled out with in 46 overs. And I remember on Sky them saying to him because we always used to say, didn't you, use up your overs, and he was like, no, just keep going hard, and that's the way. It's given them the belief. It's a little bit like we'll come on to Ben Stokes, but he's given them players the belief to go out there. Don't worry if you fail. I'll back you, and I think that's only a good thing. If you're a cricketer, you're going out there and you've got a little bit of fear in yourself. You're thinking, oh dear, if I do this, I might lose my spot in the team. Totally with Morgan, it was the other way. Go out there, play your game. If you make a mistake, that's on me.
Yeah, I was listening to an interview with him that he'd done, I think, either today or yesterday on TMS on the way down. And he said about those matches where they got bowled out in inside 40 overs, maybe it was. And he said exactly that. This is our stall. We are setting out our stall that this is the way we're going to play cricket, and it will be more effective. It will work more often than it will fail. And he was clearly a man of his convictions. For once, fair play to the ECB in backing him, and clearly it did. And people have said in the comments, it set a precedent for the white ball cricket that England played from 2015 up to 2019. And that will be and should be rightly recognised as an absolute integral part of making England white ball cricket what it was and eventually becoming world champions. So there can be no higher praise than that.
What do you think of that comment on the screen there, Rob, from Mike Baker? He says, I must be in the minority as Owen Morgan went downhill in my estimations after the handling of the Alex Hales incident.
Can't be Owen Morgan. It's not spelt with an
unless Brandon gets involved with the grammar police. I think he probably does mean Owen, Irish Owen Morgan. I I completely disagree with Mike. In honesty, I think the way they handled Hales was spot on. You know, far be it from me to suggest that he was getting involved in dubious powders or anything, but the culture in the club was that they don't want that sort of thing anywhere near
He had
them.
more than one chance, didn't he? If we're being honest here with Alex Hales, you know, he was on the incident with Ben Stokes when he was out in Bristol that night. So you can only have so many chances. And if you've got a culture around the team, Rob, look, he's a good player, Alex Hales, don't get me wrong. But he doesn't seem the brightest, if I'm being honest, when I've seen him being interviewed and that. And he will probably regret now what he done, because he's missed out on being a World Cup winner.
Yeah,
you know? We've moved forward. We've moved forward, and now, even though Morgan's gone, and probably look, I'm pretty sure we'll all agree that Josh Butler's going to be the new captain. That ship sailed with Alex Hales. There's other players like you were saying, Brandon. You've got Phil Salt. You've got your Livingstons. You've got so many players now that could say, right, pick me.
Yes, mate. Absolutely agree. So yeah, it's great when Mike chips in and gives us something to chew on. It's brilliant. You know, if we all agreed on everything, it'd be a really boring pod, wouldn't it? So
Hales, great talent, brilliant talent. Look, does well for Notts. He's still scoring runs in the T20 now. But
mate, all I would say, I just think he's a little bit clubby at times, and he tends to just whack average bowling in the blast and in the whatever on the best wicket with the fastest outfield and the tiniest boundaries in the country.
We'd all like a bat at Trent Bridge, wouldn't we? Let's be honest.
Yes, mate.
But look, I think with Morgan, he's going to leave a legacy behind that we're only going to get better. I think it's only an upward curve. I think the sky's the limit, Brandon, for this one-day team. You know, you've got the T20 coming up this winter, and then obviously the World Cup in India. That's where, if we can go abroad and win one of these, which I think we've got the talent to, you know, I think Butler's going to be a good captain. He knows what he's doing. I know there's been a bit of sort of rumblings about him being back in the test team, but I think now with Josh Butler, he's taking over that. Stick to your T20, stick to your 50 overs, and let's see where we can go with this 50 over team, because 500, it's on the horizon, surely.
Absolutely. Well, I think in white ball cricket, I think other teams do look at England and think they're the benchmark. And I think if you were going to a World Cup and you got through to the semi-finals, you'd be hoping that you didn't come up against England. And I think that's the way it's going to stay. I think we've really changed the game of white ball cricket because of Owen Morgan and his captaincy and the whole mentality. And I think we're going to do the same with the Test matches now. You know, if you don't score over 350 in a 50 over game against England, you're going out there thinking you've lost. You score it against someone else, you think pretty decent score. Playing in a 2020, it's going to be the same. If you don't get close to 200 or above it, they're going to be thinking they're underdogs going into the second innings. And I think we've put that fear into their team, like the Australian Test side of, you know, sort of around the early 2000s. I think it's similar to that. I think India wouldn't want to play against us. Australia wouldn't want to play against us. It's just going to carry on for however long it takes for another team to catch up, because they're a long way behind.
I think he's a bit unlucky, weren't he? Because we obviously started this pod, Brandon, when it was the T20, and we'll probably talk about him soon. It was only down to Daryl Mitchell that we lost that semi-final against the Kiwis there at the end, because we looked nailed on there, didn't we? And we probably should have won that 2020 World Cup as well.
Yeah, I think
that's the game. That's the 2020 game. Within 2 overs, one of them games can just turn on their head. And fair play to him that day, Mitchell. It was his day, wasn't it? Yeah,
and I do remember for most of that pod, I was questioning the tactics implemented with Chris Jordan's bowling, because he's one of the best Yorker bowlers in the game, and I don't think he tried to bowl one of them.
No, he kept getting it out of the park, didn't he?
He did.
But anyway, look, fair play to Morgan. I think I heard he's signed up for Sky. He's going to do the white ball games this summer. But
future coach, I imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say, Neil, somewhere down the line, when the opportunity comes, it might be in the 100. It might be in the IPL. It might be with England. But I think obviously Matthew Mott's just come in, so that's sort of, he's going to have 2 or 3 years doing that. But someone with his cricket brain, I think he'll be a top coach as well.
It amazed me during those radio conversations today that coaching wasn't mentioned, because I think he absolutely stands out like a sore thumb. as somebody that could just almost walk into coaching now. The influence that he's had over that team, the tactical awareness he's got, I think he just stands out like a sore thumb to be an absolute top quality coach in the making.
Do you think he could have slid in? Like I know hindsight's a great thing, Neil, but obviously Matthew Mott's just come in. Could he have slid into that one-day coach straight away?
I think he could have, but again, hearing that conversation with him, I don't think he was thinking of that before this Netherlands series. He said that it was during, I think, the first one-day international. He had that, as a lot of sportsmen say, that moment of clarity of knowing that this was the point that he wanted to bow out. And I think it was during that first one-day international. So, yeah, I mean, as you say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And I think, yes, he probably could have been that coach, and probably that wouldn't have been a bad thing whatsoever. But yeah, let's give him time to sort of absorb his retirement. But 100%, I think he would step straight into any coach role. And I think
he's still going to play. I think he's going to continue in the 100 this summer. He said he's going to continue playing. So we'll have to see how he goes with that. I suppose a lot of it depends on his body now. You know, if he has a good 100, he might think, could he get another IPL gig? I don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see. But look, he's given us some brilliant days. Ollie Morgan, he's had a great career, and just wish him all the best in whatever he does going forward. But so let's move on to the Test match at Leeds. It was lovely to see the Yorkies giving free tickets away, wasn't it, Rob?
Absolutely, mate.
That way.
Followed well, Yorkshire, obviously after a bit of, they need a bit of show some goodwill just to get their sort of stock up a little bit as a club, don't they? But yeah, nice touch. But people only got 15.2 overs. They get long. Absolutely brilliant. I don't think there's, even though we lost that, like I said last night, we lost a wicket early, and obviously the rain, it slowed us down by a couple of hours. But I don't think there's anyone who would have thought that we weren't chasing that down, and quickly as well. You had Stokes come.
First time, 3 consecutive Test matches over 250 have been chased down.
Yeah, good start,
with
mate.
ease. With ease.
Yeah. All 3 with ease. Although you look back the first one, we would have been twitchy, weren't we? 6 down. You think, oh, gee, another wicket here. We're in a lot of trouble here.
The no ball, when Big Cole overstepped with Stokes, obviously that was a big turning point here in that Test match. Yeah,
but I think, if he steps over by an inch, if he hadn't stepped over by an inch, that ball would have landed somewhere slightly different anyway. So I don't believe, if he'd have bowled it from where he should have bowled it, it wouldn't have clipped the top of off. It would have hit the middle of his bat or flown over the top. So,
small margins, Neil, isn't it? It is small margins this series when you think the Kiwis have gone away and they've lost 3-0. But conceivably, for all these Test matches, they've been well in the game. And look, I know we're all sitting here, it's brilliant. This new way of playing. We've won 3-0. But I think we do need to not get too carried away. I know we haven't, we had that record, what was it? 1 win in 17, 18 games. But I still think there's going to be days where, like the second day, it's going to be a car crash.
I mean, I just absolutely feel for Blundell and Mitchell.
Oh,
I mean, what a pair of batters they've been during this series, and yet they've come out on the losing side 3 times. I mean, and as I think we mentioned after the first Test, I thought then that England's bowling still looked a little bit pedestrian at times and looked non-penetrative. And those two have just at times made us look like we couldn't challenge the batters. So you've got to feel for those guys. But on the flip side of that, I was the first as a Yorkshire fan to berate Johnny Bairstow and felt like he wasn't ready for Test match cricket coming back from the IPL. And then look at what he's ended up doing. So,
that's a really good point you make there now about he obviously came straight in from playing white ball cricket. Now, you listen to Moeen Ali, been on Test Match Special, and I think he's really, really good. And he says he wants to get back. Look, obviously, McCullum spoke to him. He said he's a very hard bloke to turn down. But there's red ball cricket going on with your boys, Worcester playing. This is the second time they've been playing, Rob, and the second time I've heard him on the radio. He says he wants to play red ball cricket. Does it matter now with Bairstow, didn't play none and he came straight back in the team. Does it matter if you play red ball cricket now or not?
Well, all the evidence that just discussed, and it suggests obviously not. I definitely sat here, and although I predicted a 3-0 series win, I definitely slated Bairstow for not getting any red ball in.
I think we've all slated Johnny on here and say, look, after that first test, it was sort of last chance saloon a little bit. But they were saying, I was reading, I think today, they were saying about he's always, Brandon, been a little bit on the outside, sort of with the team environment. And they said he held a barbecue, I think, at his house during this test match. And him and Jimmy, they hosted it. He was at front and centre. Now, this is another thing. I think that the main two people, and both have got a lot of stick on this show, have benefited from Stokes and McCullum are Johnny Bairstow and Jack Leach. Both of them two. Yeah,
and I think, I'm sure we'll come to how we feel about sort of Stokes' captaincy throughout, but I think Stokes, compared to Root, knows how to deal with Leach. I think that
he holds him to start with.
Yeah,
he believes in him.
But the 10 wickets he took at Lords, I saw a bit that NASA done. But it's like, in football terms, Stokes has assisted a lot of those wickets. You know, he's put him on in the first innings and Leach has got a wicket first ball.
Yeah.
And then we've seen throughout the series.
Does help if your opener misses a straight ball and gets his bat tangled in his pad. Like Will Young did.
This is true. And then, like, all series, we've watched Mitchell really pump Leach down the ground with relative ease, and yet Stokes still dares Mitchell to do it to get him out, and he does the same with others, doesn't he? And so I think Leach has really done well with Stokes sort of saying, look, you bowl, you do what you do what you do. I think I know what to do to assist you, and that's where they benefited from it.
Well, he said, didn't he, about he wanted mid off and mid on back, and Stokes said no, keep him up. You know, just dangle that carrot. And obviously the wicket of Mitchell, wasn't it, on just before lunch, Brandon, on day 2 there. I think he's hit him down the ground twice that morning. Just before lunch, he's gone for another one. And look, it was a great catch by Stokes. But he's showing that belief in Leach. And I think with spinners, they need to bowl. I don't think Root ever really fully trusted Jack Leach. He was a bit of an afterthought sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. He didn't always play that much. Often we'd go in with 4 seamers as well. He didn't always play it. But, I agree. I think, did you notice Leach has changed his run-up?
He shortened it a little bit, hasn't he?
Yeah, shortened it down a little bit. Just felt backed, I guess. You know, just psychologically, we know it in our workplaces. You know, we got people around us or bosses who, you know, people you've worked for you rate and others you don't. And maybe Root was captain because Cook stopped doing it, and Cook was captain because, you know, it really is. Stokes was the captain that kind of had to do it, because we looked around and went, well, maybe Broad for a year. Somebody probably said James Vince or something like that, but there was no one else. But actually, although it was like he was the next cab off the rank as such, he is completely different to how the other guys had done it. And Leach, you can really see that chemistry between the two. They really, Leach loves playing for Stokes, whereas I think he was probably always looking over his shoulder in previous regimes. So that's another nod over to Stokes and Baz, I think.
But I think nowadays, Neil, especially they play a lot of cricket. Stokes is going to play all forms. I think the shelf life of him might be a little bit shorter than a Root, because obviously Joe Root, captain, what was it, over 60 tests, wasn't it? Yeah. That's a lot. And I think it might be maybe 2 years Stokes minimum, maximum, maybe. I just think that, I did say on here as well about his bowling. I don't think he'll bowl himself so much. I think maybe this test he did have a bit of a niggle with that knee, didn't he? And I think, although he did bowl 4 overs, I think was that on the 3rd day, and he bowled a load of crap, didn't he? And he got absolutely slapped. Yeah. So I think it might be that 2 years might be the shelf life, Neil. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, but what an exciting 2 years it's going to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think. I said all along when we were discussing captains, my concern was, would it hold Stokes back from his own performances? Listen, if he's gonna use that captaincy to inspire other players to be better, I'm all for that. And yeah, you're quite right. The amount of cricket that Stokes plays, yes, it may restrict his timescale as captain, but I think, you know, let's ride that crest of that wave while we can. Let's hope that another candidate becomes obvious by the end of that 2 years. And let's hope that McCullum and Stokes continues. Listen, we are, and on this podcast, we are the first to berate England and players and captains for not doing the right things. Let's just embrace the fact that clearly this has had a galvanizing effect on the team, on individuals, on Stokes as a captain. And let's support that, because I, for one, didn't think it would get off to this good a start. I have just been blown away by how well even the likes of Ollie Pope, it pains me to say it, have been galvanized by this. So 100%, if it's 2 years, let's just ride that crest of that wave.
But if you listen to McCullum at that after the game there, Brandon, it's like he said that, look, he mentioned Zach Crawley. They're going to keep picking him. They're going to keep picking him, I think, because he's given these players the belief. He said, Crawley, look, I think he called him a rare talent. And he said he'll come off now and again. Now, I know you probably don't agree with that, and I probably don't. I think, personally, for me, he gets the India game. If he don't get runs there, I think there's a break. Then we've got some one-dayers and 2020s against India and South Africa before the Test series. I think they do need to sort of... You can't keep picking someone just because, look, he's a rare talent. Sooner or later, they do have to deliver, don't they?
Yeah, I think that Crawley plays in the fashion that he probably wants an opener to bat in opposite Lees. And you try and think of another sort of stroke playing opener off the top of your head, and they're probably the same ones that McCullum is probably looking at as alternative when he gets to that point when he's looking. But we all get frustrated with Crawley. Like I referred to him in my day 4 review as Zach Crawley, or Zach Vince, or James Crawley, whichever way you want to do it. He looks really good for 20 odd, and then he plays a very ambitious drive, which he either gets bowled or gets caught behind, and it's frustrating. But if it comes off once every 3 series where he gets 200 like he did that time in that home series against Pakistan, then that's what's going to keep him in the Test squad.
I listened to Test match, especially the other day, and since that 260 odd, I think there was about 18 single-figure scores there. Robbie's got Crawley, but he got 43 at Lords, which is his highest score of the series, and he's got 44 from the next 5 innings. So, what about Josh Buttler opening? Ben Wilkins there in the chat. He's obviously one of your mob down at Haverhill. Yeah. Would you have Josh Buttler opening in a Test match?
Well, if you go back to my very first appearance on here, I did allude to Buttler being my favourite player. And I would. Honestly, I'd just like to say Sangakkara's comments in the third Test were brilliant. I thought everything he had to say, his analysis, the depth of how he talked about so many things was brilliant. I thought he was absolutely top-notch. Would I go Buttler instead of Crawley? Yes, I would. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. But Crawley, for me, although he'll keep going at it, I just maybe don't think he's quite the right guy. When are they ever going to say stop? When are they going to ever drop anyone then?
Yeah.
If they're going to say, well, we're not going to drop people if they play the way we want them to, but averaging 18 isn't good enough. Personally, I love Buttler. I love the way it would just be another notch of further up the crazy scale of how we're going to go about this. So I would do it absolutely. Or Jason Roy.
Jay Roy. I think what you're going to see, a lot of these white ball specialists in terms of batsmen, they might start picking up their whites and going out and playing red ball cricket again, because we saw the way that Sam Curran sort of played for Surrey as well. He went out there like, I'll treat this like an audition, slapped 100 off 60 odd balls, and I think you're going to start seeing that in the county championship as well, and they're going to be the ones that
he's in our team, isn't he?
Callum's eye.
He's in our team moving forward, Brandon. Sam Curran.
He is. Get him in. Left armour as well. Get him in.
Where do you get him in? He could bat. I think he could bat in the top 6. I think he's good enough.
I agree. Absolutely.
Mate, he's got 100. 100 when they were 500 for 4, at the Oval on a flat one when there's no pressure, and he gets this 100. Jesus Christ. Some of these guys have had to get 15, 20-hundreds to get a look in. Compton got
Zach
more.
Crawley's playing. He doesn't score a single run.
Yeah, and Compton's got more hundreds than that in like 2 days. And nobody'd heard of him.
It's interesting though now, Rob, because Stokes said, didn't he, at the end there about county cricketers? They're going to have to change the way that you're not going to get a Dom Sibley. Sibley could go out. I think he got a ton the other day. Sibley, your Burns, they're not going to get a look in. They're not going to get a look in now. You've got to play in certain fashion, haven't you now?
Yeah, they're too boring, and they've got 2 shots. One and the clip through mid wicket and the leave. Those two, you won't see those in this era. You won't see him again. Neil's nodding.
Alistair Cook had 3 shots, Rob. He had quite a good Test career.
Who?
Alistair Cook.
No, I didn't. Mate, I just didn't hear you. Alistair Cook had 3 shots.
Yeah, 3.
He had the block, the cut, and the leave. But
he went about Fuller, Cookie. Come on.
But he also averaged like 40. Those two averaged about 20 and were dour. They're terrible to watch. Absolutely horrendous to watch.
Wilkins, I'd like to see Livingston given a go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I called it back in the Windies. I'd have had him in. Imagine him batting like 7 or 8.
We said after the World Cup, I think, didn't we?
Obviously, in Pakistan, obviously, Neil, we're going to play probably 2, possibly 3 spinners. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was definitely in the squad to go out there.
Moeen, Leach, and Livingston, get him in. Look at that batting.
Have I got to play the Lancashire supporter by proxy here because I live in Lancashire, but I'm a Yorkshireman? Is that how it works? I've got to say, I think you're spot on with what you just said. In the subcontinent, I would like to see Livingston given a go. It pains me to say it. I'll take my Yorkshire specs off and put my Lancs ones on. I think Livingston is an outstanding cricketer. I think his bowling has come on leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. And I think he would be more than worth a go. As you say, even batting it's a waste batting 7 or 8, but given other players in that top 6, I just think it would be phenomenal to have him coming in at that time.
Yeah, I mean, Mo's batted 8 for England at times, hasn't he? 7 and 8.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
And also,
he goes down at 9.
The thing is with Livingston is what's so clever about him is he bowls off spin to left-handers, leg spin to right-handers. He takes it away from the bat. He can turn it the other way, and I just think he's a phenomenally underrated spin bowler.
Yeah.
And then if he comes in at 6, 7, 8, God knows where, he's just going to destroy people.
Yeah,
I think he's absolutely class. So he's going to do big bits in the T20 and the 50 overs. But yeah, Test match, Pakistan, 3 spinners. Absolutely bring it on.
So Brendan, he was bagging off. He was bagging off Sam Curran because he got 100 on a flat deck, and now he's back in Liam Livingston.
I know. I don't know what to say.
We need to pick about 13 players here, Rob, because we've got so many, haven't we?
Harry Brook.
Where does he come in?
Dan Lawrence.
No, Lawrence. He didn't do a lot for Essex.
He only missed out on this squad because of injury, didn't he?
Big shout out to Essex today, Brandon. Simon Harmer.
If only he could play for England.
Well, we'll see him later on in the. That'll be interesting to see how we deal with him in the later on in the summer, because this is where I think we were on about captaincy, Neil. The Kiwis got this massively wrong. You've got Ajaz Patel, who not that long ago got a 10-fer. He bowled 2 overs in the series, and that was it. And they're playing a lad who's only been bowling. Look, Bracewell, I think he looks a decent cricketer, but he's only been bowling off spin for 2 years, and you're expecting him to bowl England out in the 4th innings, and we just absolutely slapped him, didn't we?
I think, you look at what New Zealand have done right over the last few years, but that was a glaring error during this series to not play him more. And yeah, he's, to not go in with a frontline spinner is tantamount. Ridiculous decision. And I think ultimately, if New Zealand look back on that, they will hold their hands up to say that was probably one of their major mistakes in this series.
So should we get into some series ratings? I will go first.
Ooh.
I will take the lead tonight, and I will tell you why I'm giving them these ratings as well. So I wrote a little bit down. So Alex Lees, he's had not a bad series. He's got 169 runs at 28, but his average is 24 from 6 Test matches. He's improved. He's got more shots now because obviously when we were on here in the Caribbean, he was just nerdling it about and just sticking in there. So I've given him a 6. Zach Crawley, 43 at Lords, 44 from the next 5 innings. He gets a 3 from me. Generous?
Yeah.
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 I don't want to be too harsh. Ollie Pope, who I did actually say would be I think I did go for him leading run scorer. Still, obviously, he's got a little bit of a technical issue there, any with that, where he gets bowled through the gate. Obviously, the first innings, his head's all sort of over the place. But look, he's got 143. He got 82. I think you did say he was going to get out the other day, Brandon, on the WhatsApp group in that second innings.
I thought that Bolt was going to get him, though, around 50 when Bolt came on the evening before.
But there weren't no swing. When the ball is not swinging, I think he's...
They looked really unthreatening, didn't they? That ball that got him, Tim Salvey, fair dues to him, it hit the seam and was fairly unplayable, to be fair.
But yeah, I'll give him a 7. Look, I wouldn't say he's nailed down the number 3 spot, but he's on his way. And I think, look, he's going to be the number 3 for Neil shaking his head down the bottom there. You can have your say. You can have your say in a minute.
Wow.
Get out! Hey, we'll come to you next then. Right, Joe Root. I'll give him a 9.5. Not quite a 10. He had a bit of a nightmare at slip, didn't he, in this test? He didn't quite know where to stand. It wasn't just him against the spinners, because when Bracewell was bowling, I think it was Mitchell who was at slip, and he didn't know where to stand. So if he'd have caught his catches, Joe, I might give you a 10. So I'll give you a 9.5. Look, shackles are off. He's playing with a smile on his face. He's the best player in the world over the last 2 years for me. Who I am going to give a 10. I bagged him off after the first test when he hadn't played no red ball cricket. Johnny Bairstow, look. An astonishing transformation. He has got 394 runs at 78, and he's striking, Rob, at 120.
120.12, mate. 200s and a 50. 51 fours and 10 sixes.
There you go. So, look, Johnny needs to keep it up. I think he's probably found his way now. He's got McCullum. He's saying, look, go out there, just hit the ball. Don't worry about if you get cleaned up, because he's always got that. He's going to get cleaned up now and again through the gate because he's playing so freely. But look, brilliant to watch. Brilliant entertainment. Ben Stokes, what do we all think about the dismissal in the first innings?
Don't mind it. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I think sometimes he's a better player than that. But
he could have smoked it for 6, couldn't he? So
true. And if he wants them to play like that way, and he's obviously going to take the lead, I think when he smashes it out the ground, Rob, and that 60 at Trent Bridge, that massive 6 off Bracewell, nearly went out the ground, we're all lapping it up, aren't we? So if he hits one to mid-off...
Can I make a comment on Michael Vaughan for that? Michael Vaughan absolutely ridiculed him for that dismissal. And he was the exact same one when he hit 6s at Trent Bridge and when Bairstow's hitting 6s at Trent Bridge. Oh, it's marvellous batting. Shut up.
Changes his mind about the weather, and he shouldn't be on the BBC. He shouldn't be on the BBC. Ian sent me a bit. They're still not very happy after what went on, so we'll leave that anyway. Ben Stokes, his leadership, his man management, absolutely bang on. I'll give him a 9.5 as well. Ben Folkes, obviously having a bad back now, obviously leads to COVID, Neil. You know, that must be a symptom, which I didn't know, but didn't have the best test match. Got a duck. Anyone can get a duck. But I think he's been pretty solid in this series. He's caught his catches. He dropped 1-0. I think it was on the second day, was it, when he went across?
Yeah.
Joe Root.
It was only Bracewell, though, I think, when it...
He's tidy with the gloves. I'll give him a 7. I think going forward, he's playing the whole summer for me. I know you think this man is probably our best bowler in the series. I'll probably agree with you, Brandon. Matthew Potts, outstanding. You know, he's come in. He got 30 odd wickets in Division 2. People said, "Oh, is it Division 2 cricket?" You know, he's come in. He's got 14 wickets at 23. He's only going at 2.59 runs and over, Rob. So there's a stat for you. And I thought he bowled really well this Test match, and he should have had more wickets. He didn't have a lot of luck.
Yeah,
should have had Mitchell absolutely plumb LBW on the first day. I still can't understand why they didn't review it. It's just knocking out all three, wasn't it? And I thought, I'll give him an 8.5. Jamie Overton, although Brandon does reckon it was Craig bowling because he did look a lot different than his brother. I'll give him a 7. He got 2 wickets, but listen, he came in, he scored 97 and played a massive role in England winning that game. 55 for 6, although Neil Wagner had him plumb LBW as well, and he didn't review it when he had, I think, did he have 8? I think it was 8. Should have been out.
Yeah.
Give him a 7. Stuart
bowler
Broad.
who could bat a bit. Who would thought it, eh? Hey, Rob,
Well,
bowler who could bat a bit.
we did say, I think Rob did say, don't worry about the bowlers getting the runs.
Mm.
But he helped you with a 3-0.
Mate, honestly, if we'd have been bowled out for 77, we'd have chased 500 anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered.
What, in how many overs, though? How many? We'd have probably won in about 60 overs, wouldn't we?
67.4.
He did say when they came off after bowling New Zealand out, Stokes did say to McCullum that we could get them runs today. And McCullum did say, maybe, but let's just have a look how we go. So, Stuart Broad, I'll give him a 7. I think his powers are on the wane just a little bit. Only a little bit. He got 12 wickets at 35. He had that good spell at Lords, didn't he, when we got the team hat-trick. He bowled quite well. He smashed a few, didn't he, the other day? Although, when Broadie's batting, Neil, why would you be bowling half volleys at him?
I mean, yeah. Don't get me started on Broad's batting.
I love it.
That one good 40 odd every 6 innings.
If you're bowling at him, Neil, and he comes in, you just bowl short at him because he hates it. They were just bowling it in the slot, wallop. He loves it all day long.
I reckon my 16-year-old son could bowl bounces at Stuart Broad and still get him out.
Yeah, he's on. His powers are on the wane, but he's still a class act. Jack Leach, look, resurrected. Obviously, the first Test he got concussion. Didn't really excel, did he, Brandon, at Trent Bridge? Not really.
No.
But this Test, look, man of the match, and I know Colin in the chat says Johnny Bairstow should have been man of the match, and I don't think you can really argue against that. But I think it's nice when a bowler actually gets the man of the match. Look, he got 10 for. I know he got a few caught having a bit of a hoik, didn't he, Brandon? If we're being kind, but
First fifer was one of the worst.
I thought he bowled like I said when me and Rob were on last week, because no one else obviously wanted to turn up, Rob, and we had to hold the fort.
Did a sterling job, mate. One of the best shows.
It was. Viewing figures were through the roof. I did say that he needs to do that holding role in that first innings. You know, go at 2.5 and over, and he did on that first day. He done his job. He got a couple of wickets. Has anyone seen a more extraordinary wicket than Henry Nicholls?
Yeah, because I've seen it in a game.
Have you seen that when you were playing?
No, it hit somebody's glove and looped up to mid-on.
He middled it, didn't he? Darryl Mitchell he was middling everything.
Not seen it come off the bat, but come off a glove and go to mid-on, yeah.
He was middling everything through the series, wasn't he, Darryl Mitchell? And he's got his mate out. So I'm going to give Leach a 7.5, I think. James Anderson. Hey?
The dismissal reminded me, I can't remember which batsman it was, in the Ashes series when someone swept it and it hit short leg on the back and then carried through the square leg. I can't remember who was batting in the previous home Ashes series. Can't remember who was batting.
I don't know. I remember it happening.
It was on the final day. It's on the final
I'm older
day.
than you. I'm older than you. I don't know if you remember, Neil. Wayne Phillips.
No, the one I was thinking of was the obviously recent untimely death of Andrew Simons. And he hit it back at Michael Clark at the non-striker's end. It hit him on the foot and looped up. So yeah, and then that was the one that, as he was walking off, he was gesturing to Clark, you owe me a pint for that one. Yeah, there you go. So, it does happen, but really unfortunate.
Jimmy obviously didn't play this test. Hopefully he'll be back Friday. I'm going, by the way, to Edgbaston Friday, Jimmy, so make sure you're fit. I want to see you bowling. Skittle Coley. Come on. 651 wickets and counting. I'll give him an 8, but I think he's a week away, Neil, from his 40th birthday. How long can Anderson go on?
For me, next year at best.
Do you think he'll play the Ashes next year and that'll be his lot?
I think that'll be his swan song, yeah.
Rob?
Never say never. Keep going. I think Neil's right, but why not, mate?
Would you wrap him in? I'll ask a different question to you, Brandon. Would you wrap him up in cotton wool and say, you're not going to go to Pakistan, come back for the summer?
1,000,000%.
Would you take Chris Wokes, though, to Pakistan? Because he's good overseas, isn't he, Wokesy?
If he's fit, I'd take him, yeah.
He's nearly fit. They did say the other day he's nearly fit.
Get in there.
Yeah, Wokesy can take the new ball on them flat, dead wickets out there and probably average about 70 a wicket, Neil.
No, just open the bowling with Livingston.
Yeah, probably best. So, Sam Billings, I'll give him a 6. He didn't do a lot. He got a great catch between his knees. And Parkinson, he got a wicket. I think he got 9, didn't he, at Lords? Hit a couple of nice drives. I'll give him a 6 as well. So that's me done. Anyway, we'll come to you, Neil. Now, I want to know about Ollie Pope when you get to him. Why you're going to pin him?
Right, I'll be quite, because I actually agree with a lot of your scores there. Lee's 6 hasn't done anywhere near as much as I'd hoped he would. I was hoping he would have kicked on in this series. He's done marginally better, but nowhere near as well as I would hoped he would have done. So I've given him a 6. Crawley 3, again, flat to deceive, really. So disappointing. But ultimately, have we got? I'm not going to go down the Butler route. Is there anybody else obvious as an opener? I don't think Butler's the one. I think we're all getting a bit carried away with that one, with the new Baz ball. But Pope, I've given him a 7. I'm being generous. I think he has grasped his opportunity. However, I do still see his technical failings and get him out, get Brook in. But I don't know where. So we'll ignore that comment. But yeah, fair play to him. He did grasp his opportunity, so I'll give him that. Route 9, only short of a 10 because of his fielding slip-ups. Bairstow 9, only short of a 10 because he didn't kick on straight from the get-go. Stokes 8, similar reasons to yourself. Folks 7, again, didn't really do massively anything wrong without really doing anything right, if that makes any sense.
If you're on about folks, I think so. Look, I've said earlier about Butler, he should concentrate on the one-day cricket, but I think I might backtrack a little bit there. If he was ever going to succeed, Joss Butler, I think it would be under McCullum, Neil.
Yeah, it would. And I think, don't get me wrong, when he came out of the West Indies, I thought he didn't keep well, but I thought he was the next. I was more than prepared to give him this series to show what he can do. And I think there is certainly signs that he is the incumbent as wicketkeeper for England in the Test series. It feels like I just want him to grab hold of an innings by the scruff of the neck and not just be that man that stodges it out. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a place for that in Test cricket.
Yeah.
But under this new McCullum era, I just want him to be a bit of a street fighter type. I was going to say more like Jack Russell. That's not necessarily the case because Jack Russell dogged it out a little bit. But I just want him to see a bit more of a street fighter type batter come out really a bit more attacking. I don't know. I just feel like I want him to grab an innings by the scruff of the neck a little bit. Whereas at the minute, he's playing more of a supporting role, more almost. So, yeah. 7, listen, he hasn't done anything wrong. Don't get me wrong. I support him moving forward from that point of view. Potts, 8. Could have had a 9. I think, as we discussed in one of the previous shows, for a debut series, unbelievable for the way the guys come in and performed. So
he looks really strong as well, Neil, doesn't he? Like fitness-wise, Potts, because obviously, look, we've had a lot of bowlers break down, but he just looks like, look, touch wood, that he can just, you're throwing the ball and he'll just keep running in and he'll keep running in.
I think there was some comments made on Twitter today about how many overs he's bowled over this season and previous seasons. And listen, we've had so many seam bowlers break down over the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, 4 seasons. You know, if Potts can prove to be Mr. Reliable and can continue bowling at a decent lick whilst not being absolutely express pace, then he's going to do himself the world of good from that point of view. So, no, absolutely thrilled with his first
definitely
series.
2 places too high, though, in the batting order when he was batting at 8.
Yeah. I mean,
we
had that discussion, and I think a certain Mr. Curran was mentioned in a similar area. So I don't want to dig too deep into that one because we might go somewhere we don't want to go. But I listen.
I'm there.
Let's just praise him for what he did right for the time being.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely superb first series. So I did have Stuart Broad down as a 9. Now, bear with me because I have changed it back to an 8. That was because I saw something from Stuart Broad in this series that we might have seen before, but something, the drive, the invigoration to try and get the crowd on board at Trent Bridge, and his enthusiasm seemed to be back. And I thought that was key, certainly at Trent Bridge, to driving England forward. That might not be the right reason to give him a 9. Don't get me wrong.
I just feel a bit sorry for him in a way because he's always in Anderson's shadow, isn't he? If you look at him, he's got 549 wickets. He's not far behind McGrath now. But I never think that he really gets the credit, Neil, that he deserves.
And I think that's why I'd given him a 9 initially. I think that he had, whilst not, you quoted his stats there, whilst not as impressive as others, I think his influence was back in this series with his bowling. He might not have had the impact with his wickets or his strike rate or his average. I think he just proved at certain moments during this series to show what he means to England as a leader of the attack on some occasions. And I just felt that was really important during this series. That's why I gave him a 9. With hindsight, I have reverted it back to an 8, and I think that's appropriate. Next one, Mr. Anderson. I've given him a 7. I think, you know, he obviously missed a test, and I just think you get what you get from Jimmy, and I just think that moving forward, he's done what he does well. Again, where I said Broad as a 9, Anderson as a 7 might be a little bit harsh. Maybe an 8 for Anderson as well might be appropriate. But just sometimes obviously going under the radar. I think, you know, we maybe missed him during the winter, and now we just take him for granted a little bit when he comes back. But maybe an 8 for Jimmy. I'll put Parkinson next, 4. We had that discussion after the first test. Don't think he grasped his opportunity, if I'm being honest. I'm glad Ian's not here now. And I can dig him out a little bit. I just don't think he grasped his opportunity. Still think he's a cracking bowler. Don't think he grasped his opportunity, that's all. Leach, 8. I think, again, I can only echo what you said. I think he did grasp his opportunity. And again, I agree entirely that I think he's benefiting from Stokes really putting his arm around him. And I think that's great to see. And Overton, 7. I think, again, as Brandon says, maybe his bowling was a little bit samey. I was expecting, I heard that he was sharper than Craig Overton and he had a little bit more. I didn't really see that. I thought
because it was Craig Overton bowling, I tell you.
There you go, Brandon. There you go. I didn't see that extra pace. I was expecting it to be a little bit sharper. Didn't see that. But fair play to the lad. As I said, 97, you had to feel for him to put all that hard work in and fall 3 short, but absolutely cracking effort. So I've given him a 7. But yeah, I was just a little bit let down with his pace. I thought he would have offered something a little bit different, and it really wasn't.
It's funny in cricket, isn't it? When you say he fell for 97, I think he's obviously came out there and he batted Neil with no pressure that evening. Then he's got off the field. Then he's had a meal. He's probably gone to bed and he's thinking about it, isn't he? He's woke up in the morning and he's thinking about it again. He's come to the ground, he's got a few throwdowns. He's thinking about, I only need 11. I think if he'd have played that evening and another 5 overs, he'd have probably got 100.
100%. 100%.
Cricket a lot of it is mind games, you know. He's had no pressure, and then when he's gone out there on that Saturday, and everyone's talking about it, oh yeah, he's going to get 100. And then he obviously had a few outside off stump, Bolt kept dangling it out there and he's nicked it. And then Mitchell's obviously caught him. And he's probably thinking, look, he's happy with 97. Is he ever going to be in that position again?
I was about to say, he's the same as Leach when he got his 92, and Anderson when he's got his 81.
And Alex Tudor. There you go. I was just going to say the same, yeah.
Not out. Yeah.
Same situation.
But he can hold his head high because he got 97 and he played a massive part in us winning that Test match. But
yeah,
right then, Rob, let's come to you.
Not a lot new, mate. Lee's 4 did nice bits.
Brendan's joking.
What did he average?
That was a genuine cough.
28.16. 150
again.
28.16.
Yeah. At least we weren't 30 for 2. Did a job, got us off to nice little starts, but I think moving forward, there's certainly room for
Irvin says we've got a bit of breaking news in the chat here. Michael Vaughan has stepped back from BBC work with immediate effect.
Yeah, I've read that. It's to do with the ongoing investigation into Rafiq and all the racism and stuff. So he's been cited amongst it. So he's just stepped back from his BBC
and the
work.
Fact he talks absolute dross. Carry on.
He's got his own podcast now with Tuffers. Did you know that?
Remind me to miss it, mate.
I'll be listening to it. It's actually all right. Look, but Michael Vaughan you can take him or leave him. He does contradict himself a lot, if I'm being honest. But yeah, breaking news. Anyway, back to your ratings.
Crawley 2. He was 10th in the batting averages. You know, that says it all. That he was 10th, the 10th English player in the batting averages. He looked like getting out all the time. I know he's potentially been encouraged to play his way, but unfortunately, his looseness is too loose. And at the end of the day, he's paid for how many runs he scored, and there wasn't enough. Pope averaged 44.5. I give him an 8. The 100 was beautiful. You know, batted really well. Root, I give him a 9.5. He averaged 99. Bradman-esque, shall we say. A couple of decent wickets as well. Agree with you, Rich, probably. A couple of drop catches, didn't he? So that's why he didn't get a 10.
What about that flick over slip for 6?
Cool.
Yeah, and did you see yesterday? Actually, only blinked one to point as well.
Yeah.
So he is human after all.
Yeah, he is.
That was beautiful, though. I mean, seeing the second one live, I literally put it in our group, didn't I? I just turned it on, and the second ball I saw, I just think, wow.
The commentary made that, though.
Well, yeah.
They're just hiding outside off stump. He's going to have to square drive it. He's going to have to go a bit square with his drive. Oh, is he? Is he? Yeah.
See, this is what we get with Josh Buttler, Neil. If we had Buttler opening, he'd be doing it in the third over, you know, 4 slips and a gully.
Third
no,
ball.
he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't.
For 6.
No, he'd feather edge it to the keeper and be on his way.
Yeah, but better than Crawley, though. Anyway, so Stokes averaged at 48 with the ball. Didn't bowl particularly well. But didn't over bowl himself. Stayed fittish. 8.5 captaincy, spot on. Bairstow averaged 78, 9.5. Take it all back, Johnny. I'm nearly a convert.
Even after his 3 catches on that first morning, you said he'd gone up in your estimation, didn't
he?
He
had, but one of them he should have. The second one was
he chested it, didn't he? Chested it down.
Yeah, folks. 7 didn't do a lot wrong. Really crucial couple of knocks, didn't he? 57 and a 40. Did really well. Unlucky to get the COVID, but while I'm here, Billings I give a 5. Didn't do anything wrong. Didn't do anything right, so he stays neutral on a 5. Overturn 7. crucial runs. Did need those runs at 8, but then 1 wicket at 70 odd, I think. Potts 9. I'm really pleased that we flagged him on the pod after we talked about picking batters on form. Flagged that we should be looking at bowlers on form, and there he is. Potts did get the nod, and big shout out to Division 2. Bowled really well, almost in the Jimmy, maybe in the Jimmy role. So perhaps Jimmy will feel a little bit more comfortable about stepping aside, but his economy was excellent throughout. So I was really impressed with Potts. Needs to get a few more runs though if he's going to bat 9, because he averaged 2, which is
he's slipping down to 10 in my lineup.
Yeah, Broad 8, a couple of wow moments, few runs, classic Broad. Just a normal Broad series. I give him an 8. Anderson, I give a 9, which is higher than everyone else. I think he averaged 18 with the ball. Wickets in all over the place. Economy like 2 compared to what was going on in this crazy Test series. Wickets at 18, just so reliable. So he gets a 9 from me. Leach 8, came into his own really sort of second and third games. 10 for on a flat one. Contained in the first innings. Yeah, got wickets at the end after bowling 30 odd overs and got a few plinks up in the air. Second innings bowled really well. Parkey 3, looked a bit clubby. He'll have his time in the winter. And I think that's about it. Pretty much you boys have covered it all.
Really interesting, though, Neil. Kevin Peterson, very, very vocal before the series. England win 3-0, and we don't hear anything from him.
I believe what you're supposed to say now is no comment.
Well, there you go.
Wi-Fi, clearly.
What?
Yeah. Pearson's hotels haven't got as good Wi-Fi as Neil's down there.
Well,
can't get onto the Twitter.
We'll go around the room and we'll pick who was your England player of the series.
I didn't want to do my ratings anyway.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, come on, quickly. Sorry.
All right. Thanks for that. Lee's 6. I thought, we've got to take into consideration that Crawley also ran him out, so he didn't really get a chance in the last innings of the last match.
Great bit of fielding, though. Great bit of fielding by Williamson.
And I think the way he batted at Trent Bridge in both innings was really good, Lee's. So gets a 6.
Colin's getting a little bit carried away in the chat there, Brandon. He says we will be number 1 in the world at Test match cricket and one-day cricket very soon, lads.
Oh, I don't know how soon is very soon in Colin's world, but not in mine. Anyway, moving on. Crawley gets a 2 for me. He gets 1 for top scoring in the first innings at Lords, and he gets 1 for being one of our better slip fielders.
He did drop a couple as well, didn't he?
Well, yeah, he caught ones when other people were dropping them, which is what I remember. Root gets a 10. I think if you're looking at it, that he's got 170 at Lords. He then got a runnable 100 chasing it at Trent. No, he didn't. It was the other way around, wasn't it? Yeah. It was runnable 100 at Lords to chase the target. It was 170 at Trent Bridge. And let's face it, he didn't look like getting out in that last innings, did he? He could have carried on going. He would have got a double
just
ton.
Give the strike to Best, though.
And he said that. He said he was looking at it like 50 over game. You just give Johnny the strike. And that also shows his attitude that he didn't try and swing from the hip to try and race him to 100. He's a team player. So he gets a 10. I don't care if you're going to drop catches, if you're going to score tons in every match, you can do what you want. Ollie Pope, a 7. I think he had a reprieve on about 2 when he went on to get 140 odd. But then he batted very well. He batted really well for this 80 odd. He has the same problem Bairstow used to have, where always getting bowled through the gate, and Bairstow seems to get out, nick and behind now. So maybe he could.
I think when the ball's not swinging, Brandon, Pope's going to get a lot of runs.
But a lot of people get a lot of runs when the ball's not swinging.
Like the better players get runs when the ball is swinging.
I think
it needs to work out.
I think I said to you that at Trent Bridge, everyone but Crawley really got runs for both teams. Both teams, all the batsmen got starts or got 50s or around 50s, and it was clearly quite nice to bat on. And Pope took advantage of an early reprieve, so he gets a 7 for me. Stokes have given an 8. I think sort of 2 scores. I think he's captained the series really, really well. He hasn't got that big big 100. He sort of, but the way he's batted every innings has obviously been clear from the get-go. He's got, mind you, he did get, I think he got 50 at Lords or Trent
Yeah,
Bridge, which was at about 50. Yeah, his strike rate was normal sort of test strike rate of around 50 odd. But other than that, you know, he said, I'm going to score a quick 50 and it's going to change the game here. And you blink and you miss it very quickly. That can change a game. Bairstow given a 9. Last 2 test matches, you know, absolutely brilliant. He's had a really good year, Johnny Bairstow, hasn't he? When he came in at Hobart, scored a ton. I think he's the sort of person, him and Broad, I think they've got the biggest hearts I've seen on a cricket pitch for England. Both of them would go on for 10 days if it meant that we'd get a result at the end of it. Sort of player that I can see down the line. I wouldn't be surprised if he was Stokes' vice, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that's a good option. Folkes, I gave Folkes a 5 for the West Indies. He's gone up to a 6 for me. The only worry I've got is, as I said, sort of batting with the tail. I don't know whether I sort of see him as a point where they might be looking as an option maybe to strengthen their batting to get more into the mould. I wouldn't be surprised if they looked at that and thought, if we could get Butler in, or we could give Pope or Bairstow the gloves and get another batter in, a Brook in, or they're the only. There's not many spaces now to get in batsmen like Brook. Do you know what I mean? Like if the sort of more positive batters, come through, who else are you going to take out of that?
Well, they said that, Brandon, about Pope, because that was obviously the only place they could bat him was at 3, because Root went down, Stokes was dropping down as well, Johnny was coming in, so obviously Ollie Pope. So
yeah, and
Harry Brook, he's just got to wait his turn until someone gets injured.
Yeah,
and
or they move on. Yeah, I think, as I said, Folkes, it might be the guy. If he doesn't hit form with the bat, they've got 2 other people in that batting lineup who can keep fairly well. Wouldn't be surprised if that would be one of the options to get another batsman in. But 6, I thought he was good with the gloves. I think 1 drop in the whole series is all I can remember. Maybe 1 other half chance down the leg side in one of the other tests. Broad, I've given a 7. Obviously, his figures the last test weren't as we expect, but he just, I love when Broad gets annoyed with that ball. That was absolutely brilliant. It is going to be misshaped when you smash it into the grass and then kick it to the wicketkeeper, isn't it? But,
did you hear why the balls have been going out of shape?
They're not being seamed tight enough, are they?
So the person who's stitching them, there's a different person stitching them, and they're not stitching them as tight as the person before.
Yeah, but I love Broad. Love all of his mannerisms. Wouldn't change him for the world. Potts, I've given a 9. I think the only thing that he missed this series was getting the 5 he deserved.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially for the first innings, I thought Leach sort of got the 5 from the first innings that Potts sort of deserved in my eyes. But absolutely brilliant, and it goes to show that you don't need to bowl up there. Like, he looked dangerous throughout every over of every ball that we had. He looked dangerous because he just bowled that line, didn't he? He just bowled outside off, really disciplined, not many looseners, brilliant. Whether the ball was 50 overs old or whether it's 5 overs old. So he gets a 9. Given Leach a 7, I sort of, the 2 matches that he bowled in, a 5 for Trent Bridge because he was really ineffective. And then he's got a 10 for this game. So you put 2 and 2 together, 7 for me. I think he will benefit from the way that Stokes is captaining him, and obviously confidence goes a long way, and I imagine this 10 is going to do bucket loads for that. Anderson, I've given a 7. Put him down on getting injured, which might be a bit harsh as he's 39, but we want to see him playing. So when he's not, I'm going to put him down for it. Brilliant to see him bowl that first morning at Lords. Miss watching him. Just bowl, Jimmy. At Overton, I've given a 6. His bowling was pretty poor in my eyes. I think Conway gave his wicket away, which was his first test wicket in the first innings. But then I don't know whether tactics, the way he was told to bowl, might not have benefited him either. It looks like Stokes didn't want to bowl, so he thought, I don't really want Broady to run in and bowl short like the other 2 tests. Do you mind doing it? And I
hate that. They call it the enforcer role.
Yeah. I think it's just because we don't have a bowler who can bowl with an old ball, to be honest. And that's the one thing where I think we need to really improve is just bowling when that ball gets old, because all we do now is we send loads of people out on the hook and we go, we're going to bowl 6 balls short and over, and then we're going to bowl Leach down the other end. And that'll be the one place we can improve, I think.
Who's your man in the series?
Potts.
Neil.
Root.
Rob.
Stokes.
I'm going with Brandon. Matthew Potts for me. Outstanding.
He's only 23 as well, isn't he?
Yeah, just needs to stay fit. Just keep fit, keep bowling, keep taking wickets. So Friday, India, Edgbaston. What are our thoughts? I think it'll be more of the same. I think we're going to catch them cold. They've only had one warm-up game. They played at Leicester. I think they're not going to know what's it, and Rob.
Leicester had a good team out that day, didn't they?
Yeah.
Leicester had signed a couple of tidy players. Actually, a couple of Indians had signed.
Pajara was playing. He got a duck, didn't he?
I hope Sussex were okay with that. But I completely agree. I think they're going to be caught a little bit cold. We're on a crest of a wave. I think there'll be moments where, a bit of class from their batters might get them a total, or Bumrah maybe might just run through us a little. Who knows? But I think if we are 50 for 5, we hopefully play our way and recover from it accordingly.
I think it'd be must see, Brandon. This Test match. I think there's going to be lots of stuff happening. I don't think it'll go 5 days. I think the weather's supposed to be fairly decent. I'd be surprised if it went for 5.
I think a massive benefit is that we've just come off a 3-match series. This is going to act like a 4th Test and a 4-match series, isn't it? And they've played one game where Kohli wasn't happy being given out LBW, which did look very suspect. I think the umpire had his finger up before it was bowled. But yeah, I think that they're going to be seeing Johnny Bairstow in their nightmares, to be honest. They're going to be thinking, wherever we bowl, they're just going to hit it for 6, aren't they? Where are we going to bowl it? I think the only difference might be the quality of their spinners. Obviously, we said that Bracewell was maybe the downfall. If they have Ashwin playing, Ashwin's bloody quality. They opened the bowling with him many times, didn't they, to get Cook out back in the day? So, yeah, that would be the only difference.
Win the toss, Neil. Win the toss, take Ashwin out the game. He'll have to bowl on that first day when it's not spinning a lot.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that could be the decider. But I think, as everybody said, how many times have we used the excuse of England coming into series cold, Ashes series, for example, without much warm-up? And I genuinely agree with everybody else that I think that will be the killer for India. I've just been watching them play a T20, or some of them playing a T20 against Ireland. And
how'd they get on? Did they win?
I haven't checked the final score. They got 225 in the first innings, but Paul Sterling was
4 runs.
4 runs.
Won by 4.
Yeah.
I would say Paul Sterling was taking him to the cleaners early doors. So I think they're trying to scattergun approach to get people in form. And I just don't think that works in a test scenario. So I think England's warm up is preparation is far better than India's. So I think we'll actually walk it. In all honesty.
It's a strange one, isn't it, Neil? Obviously, because this is the 4th Test because of COVID. So this is where we are probably going to benefit by we're on form, catch them cold.
Yeah.
To me, it just seems like a one-off test. It's obviously still the series is live and they're winning 2-1. So we'll just have to see what happens. Just a shout out to the England women's playing South Africa at Taunton. 284. South Africa all out. England 328 today for 6. Nat Siver 119, and on debut Alice Davison-Richards with 107. So big shout out to the girls. They're leading by 44. I feel a bit sorry for the girls, Rob, because they should be playing more Test cricket.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't played many, but South Africa haven't played a Test for 15 years.
9 debutants they had.
Yeah. Really pleased for the girls getting their debut ton at 7. Brilliant. She's actually 28 and played with Nat Siver 10 years ago as kids. So great partnership between those two. I think Eccleston can bat, Cross can bat. Let's pile on as many as we can. 120 lead. Put them under the pump. Both teams scored quite quickly, obviously, after Caps 150. 4-day test. Get them under the pump a little bit, and then chase whatever it is down at 7 and over, just like the boys. Easy. Job done.
If only cricket was that easy, eh?
Can I just make a point about Alice Davison-Richards' facial mannerisms.
Yeah.
It was just like watching a club cricketer. Every time she played and missed a ball, she's smacking her head like this, and it's like fair play to her. I felt so happy for her when she got a touch because you could tell it meant so much to her. So yeah, really good. I was watching it this evening actually. It was really good to watch. So fair play.
Good crowd down there as well at Taunton. There was quite a few down there. So any other business, Brandon? Do you want to talk about Essex with a great win over Hampshire today?
Simon Harmer is just a magician, isn't he?
What are we going to do to him when he plays? Obviously, he's going to play for South Africa.
Do you think hit him out stadium crunch?
Take him downtown when he plays.
I don't think he's any better than Ashwin. Is the way I look at it.
We're not going to prepare a Bunsen burner for him, are we?
Oh, here we go.
No, well, he does it on a lot of pitches.
Well, Liam Dawson did get 7, so you're probably correct there.
Should we also just quickly mention, in terms of the way that England are now batting, also does take out the chance for the opposition to get a second new ball most of the time, which is
get bowled out 360 off about 70 overs, job done.
Yeah. You only get them 6 down now. Need another 40 odd to win with a chance. They're beat at 30 overs before the new
Actually,
ball.
Before we go, I will quickly read out. Ian did send me his ratings as well, so I don't want to get in trouble. He's watching ABC tonight, Rob, by the way. No, not for you. What was it, Neil? Come on, ABC.
Well, it's easy as 1, 2, 3.
There you go. Open goal. So he give Alex leads a 6. He give Crawley a 4.
Wow, what is he smoking?
Generous.
Ollie Pope a 6.5. Joe Root got an 8. Ben Stokes
got a bad mood.
Ben Stokes got an 8.5. Johnny Bairstow got a 9. 7.5s for Folks. Jimmy. Broad gets a 7.75.
Oh, Jesus.
Matthew Potts gets an 8. Jamie Overton, Brandon, gets an 8.5.
I don't know whether you should invite him back on, Crunch. I think we should move him from the group chat ASAP.
The funny thing is, he's given Leach an 8, right? He's given Leach an 8, but Parkinson and Billings played a sort of hardly played at all. Yet he's given Parky a 4. But he hasn't given a rating to Billings, so I think it's a bit harsh on Sam Billings. Man of the series, he's actually gone for Daryl Mitchell, which we all agree with.
Surprised he didn't go for Zach Bloody Crawley as his man of the series.
Take it up with him next week when we're on. Hopefully he'll be here because we'll do another pod next week after the India game. But I think other than that, we've covered most of the things. I think it'll be another England victory. I think Bairstow will probably blitz another 100, rob off about 60 balls. The Hollis stand will probably behave themselves better than the Western Terrace did. But probably the beer snake will not be as good as that because did you see their beer snake they done, Neil?
Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect from Yorkshire? Come on.
Incredible.
All the best.
Did you see the scrap, Brandon, with the guy in the Gascoigne shirt?
No, I didn't. I was asked randomly on the phone actually at work. The guy said, "It wasn't you in the Gascoigne."
He was.
The other day, was it? I said, "No, it weren't." No.
He was like a windmill. There was punches going everywhere. But there was a great picture, Neil. I can't remember where it was on. It was a still, and there's some of the people's faces in the background are obviously watching the cricket, and others were looking at it and thinking, "Oh, what the hell's going on there?"
I heard he was a southerner. I heard all the Yorkshire people were behaving impeccably.
He would be, wouldn't he, Rob?
Absolutely, mate. I stay neutral when it comes to that.
My favourite is the Boris Johnson run away from the policeman. Yeah, that's the one.
Quality. Anyway, Test match cricket is alive and well. We all love Test match cricket. England are on fire, and we will be back next week, hopefully with more good news. Another good win over India. I'm going on Friday. I'll see you all later.
The red ball is reset.
There you go. I think we're still live. I don't know where Martin is.